Hey boys and girls, this is Dragan from Macedonia. I'm a writer for the show. This episode's guest is Aaron Casserly Stewart. He is a force, being a singer, manager, professor, producer, board member, advisor, etc., etc. The list is long and really impressive. So listen to this great app. Also, please support the Break It Down show by doing a monthly subscription. All of the money you invest goes directly to supporting the show. Also, don't forget to support Save the Brave as we battle PTSD. Without further ado, our guest Aaron Casserly Stewart.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Aaron Casserly Stewart, and you're watching The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Aaron Casserly Stewart is a music business professional, has been for many years, first as a singer, now as a manager. He's also very involved in the furthering of humanity. Let's bundle it up and say that. And with that, we start the show. What are we after today? Tell us about what we're going to talk about today.
Gosh, that's a good question. I'm following your lead. I have no idea. We're going to talk about Matt Hoy. I know that.
Well, we are going to do that as well.
Yeah.
Many-time guest Matt Hoy is a singer, solo artist, but also happens to have a day job in a band we know and love called UB40.
With Ali and Astro, you have to say that, or the other UB40 gets mad.
Yes.
So we love everybody. So we don't want to make anybody mad.
That's right. So, but the relationship between the two of you is one of artist and manager. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Yes, that is accurate. Yeah, and sparring partners sometimes as well.
Okay, so artist, manager, and so much more than that.
Yeah.
It really is. And the thing is with Aaron, and he's kind of representing me now as my manager. He's one of my best friends ever now. It's finally having a manager that gets you. And this is how we've started rolling for the last 5 months. And
Okay, well, let me start by asking you.
In the last 5 months, quicker.
I see.
The whole of my career. So it's good times.
Well, okay. Elaborate on that. What is it about Aaron that allows him to get you and to understand your career, your trajectory, and sort of, it's almost like when you have a great DJ in the party, he's not playing the song that you wanted. He's playing the song that you wanted, but a lot of times he's playing the song you didn't even realize you wanted.
Yeah, very true. And I think that's the same as being a songwriter and a producer and a performer. You can have various different managers, and they kind of only see the superfluous, the surface of what they think you're trying to portray. This is the first time I've had representation of a manager who's actually listened to what I'm doing, listened to what I'm saying, and he gets it in the same way that I do. And so we've kind of forged this journey together from the same backdrop, as it were, so it's so much easier. Everything is easier because we both know what each other's thinking. We kind of know not to go down that road, but we know to go down that road. So it's great.
Aaron, what is Matt thinking?
He's thinking that I'm going to give him a big fat kiss when I see him for saying all of those nice things about me. That's what he's saying. No, it's been a joy and a pleasure working with Matt. Like you said, we're friends. He said it correctly. He's one of my closest and dearest friends in a very short amount of time. It's like we've known each other, all of our lives. Really, we really get each other. There's a lot of banter in our work. There's a lot of fun in the work, but we also know when to get down to business and take things seriously. But it's been an absolute pleasure working with Matt. for sure.
How did this union begin? Where did you guys meet? How did your professional paths cross?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, we have been kind of following each other on Facebook. Actually,
I think it was Mark Anthony, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mark Anthony made the connection. Who is a friend of Matt's, and we were just happened to be talking one day, and he was like, "Hey, I'm looking for a manager. Would you be interested in working with me?" And I was like, "Absolutely, yeah," because I'd been, like I said, following his career for at least the past 6 months or so, and that's how it came to be through Mark Anthony, a mutual friend of ours, was how we were introduced to each other.
Okay, so that gives also some professional cred to both sides. I mean, it's almost like a valued friend endorsed you both for the union. But what specifically in the things that you saw that Matt was up to made it appealing to work with him?
When we initially talked and he shared the direction that he wanted to go, and his influences as well. Yeah. Prior to moving to the States, I was a singer with a group called the Sounds of Blackness.
Yeah.
And Matt has, his R&B background, his gospel background and influences that just, resonated with a part of my journey. And, we had common people that we both listened to and liked. So it just made sense for us to work with each other. It just makes sense.
Okay. And Matt, on a professional level, what made Aaron attractive as a manager?
Attractive as a manager. I'm glad you said that, because he's a fine, damn good-looking man. I'm sure his husband people would second that. But the thing is with Aaron is anybody with the background that's worked with, the Sounds of Blackness, it's that gospel sound. As soon as we spoke about music in general, when we just had the first conversation, we just, chit chat. It was all the names that we were both reeling off it was like, yeah, we love that one. Yeah, I love that. I love him too. Oh, have you checked out the second album on that song? On that, it was just a continual thing, influence after influence after influence. And because Aaron is, he's gonna like this. He's not that much older than me, but he's a little bit. He's kind of like a little mentor for me.
Watch it now.
I value opinion clearly. When making decisions. I know, I'm careful, but I do. I kind of anything Aaron opinion-wise kind of puts to me, I really value it, because it's to do with that that pedigree of music that I love so much, and he's lived through it and he's been part of it. So I have to respect that.
Oh, that's terrific. So in your vision as an artist and where Aaron and his role fits into it, what do you see and that you like so far? What has made this seemingly accelerated arrangement in your career so satisfying? What's he doing differently?
Well, I'll tell you what he's doing. It's the people that Aaron's introducing me to, and it's people that are firstly very much like-minded in the way we approach our work ethic. Secondly, it's to do with the people that he knows that he's introduced me to. It's like the track that I've got out that's coming out on the 5th of March called Strong. I am honoured to have Aaron's friend Patricia Lacey doing the backing vocals on that track, who was a one-time singer with Sounds of Blackness and also one of my heroes, Luther Vandross. So one of my favourite albums is Luther Vandross live at Radio City Hall. And Patty is part of that show. You can, if you listen to it, you can hear her voice bellowing out as good as Luther's, So to have her on my new single and kind of encapsulating the whole vibe of what I could see when I was writing it, that's what Aaron provides, And he, as soon as I said to him, this is what I want, this is what I need, I wanted to sound like this. He knows exactly who to call, who to speak to. And all his friends are very much like-minded like him. They're all wonderful people. They're all kind, open, bend over backwards to help you. And it's just been a a joy of a journey so far to record this second album.
Wow. Well, just a quick note for our viewers and listeners, because you bring up Luther Vandross, and I think everybody, of course, knows him as a vocalist and a legendary vocalist. But, I once heard Nile Rodgers say, Luther Vandross taught me how to make records. And so I don't think we could possibly overstate his impact from a technical level on the music industry. And so anybody involved in the making of a Luther Vandross record, it's almost like being a stuntman in a Bond movie. You have truly arrived if you're anointed to be on that kind of stage. Aaron, where do you see Matt? And when he says that, you're introducing him to people, you have contacts that are benefiting his career in new ways. What do you see for him, and what made him so attractive as an artist that you could have immediately a sort of a vision for his path?
I see him as a Grammy winner and as a BAFTA winner is what I see. And just going back to your point with Nile Rodgers, when Luther got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I was blessed and privileged to attend that ceremony. And as Patty's guest, his backing vocalist guest, she took me to the ceremony, and Niall was there, and Johnny Gill and Clive Davis, Luther's niece, and they all, spoke. Marcus Miller, and you're right. Those were the key people that that were asked to speak at his ceremony. And Luther influenced each one of those individuals, of course, with Patty as well, being his backing vocalist. But my vision for Matt is to be an R&B singer, R&B / reggae singer. Obviously, that's been a big part of his career, is reggae. But we're taking this journey down a more R&B route, and he definitely has the pipes for it. He sent me a song last night, a new song that he is working on with another gentleman here in England named Mark Walker, and it literally brought me to tears. It was just an amazing gospel R&B song that you all will hear on the album later in the year. But he definitely has the passion and the talent to execute being an R&B singer, which I know is his one of his first loves. So that's that's the vision, that's the route. And like I said, when you have people like Morris Hayes, who I had the privilege of working for as his personal assistant. When you have people at that caliber endorsing Matt music, and you have Eric Griggs, who is one of Dr. Dre's lead producers, you have Martin Ware, who was one of the founders of the Human League and Heaven 17. When you have these people, you have Ricky Pujat, who is Madonna's music director or keyboardist. When you have these individuals at that level of the industry that back him and support him, that tells me all I need to know. It's a no-brainer, because those people, believe me, none of those people would give Matt the time of day if they didn't believe in what he stands for and what he's doing and his voice and all of that. They just wouldn't. I presented each one of those people that I've met or that I mentioned music from artists over the last 8 years or so that I've known them, and this is the first time that they've been so engaged and supportive of an artist that I've brought to them. So that speaks volumes.
Yeah. It really does. Professionals on that level. And the one person whose resume you didn't explain, probably doesn't need explanation to our audience, but just in case anybody missed it, you talked about Morris Hayes, who was a keyboard player for Prince, and I believe the longest tenured band member that Prince employed. And that really is saying something, because what you're talking about in all of those individuals, and obviously in Morris Hayes' case, are the music professionals who put in the time, because each one of those guys is going to look at someone like Matt, not just for the pipes, but for the work ethic, like you mentioned, and for his ability to deliver time after time after time, because the music business is an endurance sport.
Yeah.
And, it really just takes a special kind of individual to have a talent and then to take it to that level. So, Matt, how does it feel to have Aaron speak so glowingly of you? And does that play into what you find appealing about him?
Well, everything he's just said is quite right, to be fair.
So what you like about him professionally is he's always right.
Oh, dude, exactly. Didn't I tell you? No, it's a very, 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 it's a big deal for me, that is, because, you've got to picture me. I'm a boy from the Midlands in Birmingham in England, that grew up listening to Bobby Brown and Michael Jackson and, all this stuff, Jam and Lewis and all that kind of era, Teddy Riley.
Yeah.
So to have somebody like Aaron kind of say that I am, welcomed into that kind of era of the industry, is a very, very big thing for me. And it's kind of justification in a sense, whether it's granted or not. But for me, because I've researched and loved and studied and just worshipped that whole era, to finally be a part of it is very, very, very special, to kind of have those guys listen to one of your songs that I've, written and produced with James, my co-writer and producer, to listen to our songs and go, we'll attach our name to that. That's a huge thing for me, So yeah, I have to thank Aaron for that, because otherwise it would have never happened,
Has it been more of a challenge to attack R&B from the other side of the pond?
Completely, absolutely, because the UK doesn't get R&B. It really doesn't. The UK just gets pop. Then that's all. Unless you've kind of got the big name, the 4 biggest pop stars at the moment. Unless you're doing that's all. That's all the UK radio stations play. When you've travelled, as I have with UB40 and Ali and Astro, you kind of witnessed global music, world music, and you realise that it's not all about the US and England, which is like the main territories. There's a whole realm of music out there that's just wonderful. Yeah. So to go back to the R&B in the UK, it never really took off in a sense over here since the 90s. Back in the 90s, it did a little something, and so did reggae. But from that point on, it kind of faded away. And anybody that's attempted that kind of 80s, 90s R&B has ultimately failed, in my opinion. The last was really kind of TLC and around Usher and that kind of era. And nobody's really attempted Mario, maybe, but it's just faded away, and it's really sad. And that's my dream, is not only for me to do it as an artist, but to kind of bring that back, because it's missing. It really is missing. It's all so bland at the moment. And I know it's an age saying that. It's an era of whatever age bracket I am going, well, my music was better than the music. But it really is. Music today is bland. There's no depth. There's no stories. There's no production. There's no, when you listen to like Grace Jones and Slave to the Rhythm, the 12-inch version, you just sink back in your chair and go, oh my God, what a work of art. You don't get that anymore. It's all crap. I'm sorry to say, but it is. You know? These are works of art. You know.
How do you really feel, Matt? How do you really feel?
Yeah.
I did a radio show the other day with a friend of mine called Frank Bambini, and he's a huge Prince fan. He asked me to pick 3 songs, and I picked Slave to the Rhythm, I picked Shush by Prince, and I picked Father Figure by George Michael. And all 3 of those songs are epic pieces of music that took time in a studio. They were manifested, you know what I mean? And nowadays, it's just thrown together. And that's what annoys me, and that's why I want to bring it back. I want proper music to come back.
Yeah. I think that.
Sorry, you asked that question, Aaron.
No, well, let me ask you this, because you say that you know that you're taking on the gargantuan mission of being the torchbearer of bringing back the quality and the production of R&B. Does your skin color work for or against you?
I don't give a shit. I really don't. I don't care if I'm black, white, orange, green, or blue. It's about the music. It's about the music. And listen, I'm under no illusions. You know, Luther Vandross, James Ingram, George Benson, Patti LaBelle, Patty Austin, Patti Lacey, all those people are the legends that went before me. And there is no way I could ever compete with those people. They are just iconic. You know, all I can do is my best at what I do and tip my hat to the legendary music they produced back in the day. And that's what I want to do.
Well, I appreciate your sensibility that way as an artist. I'm going to ask you, Aaron, because, you know, you're also American and black. It took the Rolling Stones to introduce a wide swath of Americans to Buddy Guy. Do you think that Matt has in this, in being the torchbearer of this movement, do you think he has an advantage or disadvantage because of his skin color?
You know, there's always going to be haters. Mm-hmm. Always. That's just, you know, no matter what you do, whether if Matt was black, there'd still be haters.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. And like he said, it's really about the music.
Yeah.
And as I said before, I take my cue from my mentors. And if Morris and Eric and Ricky and Malcolm Joseph and all of these people that mentored me and that are digging this music, as Matt said, I don't give a shit, because I have have the seal of approval from people that have, you know, gone before us. And that's what I pay attention to. There's always going to be haters, always. If he, no matter what color he was. And it's really about, as Matt said, it's really about the music and the collaborations, you know, that are happening on the album. You know, that's what it's about. And Matt has some amazing people on this album. You know, that people would die to work with. And I'm blessed and grateful for that, and for them trusting me, and, you know, just backing the project. You know, that means the world to me. And because these are the people that helped me get where I am today. You know, there's an African saying called Ubuntu, and that means I am because we are. You know, and that's what it's about. I'm here because of all of those people that we mentioned, along with Gary Hines, you know, as well, the director of the Sounds of Blackness. You know, that's why I'm sitting here talking to you now, and I'm very clear, you know, about that. I didn't get here on my own. No one does. So, you know, you have to have the support and the backing by people that have gone before you, and we are blessed beyond measure to have that. We really are, both here in England and back home in the States. You know, with Mark Walker and Orphe Robinson and Martin Ware, as I mentioned, and Beverly Knight, and just different people that support us and what we're doing. And it's truly, I'm humbled by it, to be quite honest with you. And I know that, like I said, we would not be having this interview if it weren't for all of those people that I just mentioned.
Wow. Okay. How about this? When it comes to Matt and the music that he's making and the content and the production values, you're going to attract older and younger listeners, clearly. But is there a place for commerce among older listeners? And do you think that, because one of the things that, if we're talking about going back to a production value that, like Matt was saying, I think that brings in an older audience and the appreciation of more developed ears, of sophisticated ears.
Yeah.
What do you think is the marketplace for those sophisticated ears? Is there money there?
Yes, I think, as Matt made a point of, that's something that's missing in music, that old school production, story telling within music. I think there's definitely a market. D'Angelo just coming out of hibernation now, and
as he has done several times.
And various people, her, there's that style of music, particularly for our generation, for our age, the middle-aged folks that we are. There's definitely a market for that style of music and that type of music. That's, if we want to talk, financially, that's the generation that has the coins. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And our longing, as Matt said, I for that type of music that he's doing. So yes, there is a market for it. I do believe. Absolutely.
Okay, so there's the demographic that has the disposable income, and
exactly.
that exists, but we have to encourage them to spend it on something. And I'm going to very quickly tell her story, because I'm from Vallejo, California. We have the same hometown, and I'm a big fan of hers. But I think we had a radio promoter named Jeff Traeger on the show. He's been on several times, and he said that he did a concert called Voices of Latin Rock or something. The headliner of the thing it might have been a different show. But anyway, he was throwing a show that the headliner of which was Tower of Power.
Yeah.
And she at the time was probably 14 or 15 years old. And he brought her up to introduce her to the band because he wanted to have her come and sit in on something. And they said, well, what do you want to sit in on? Do you want to sing? And she said, well, yeah, I want to sing, but not really. I want to play bass. And surprised everybody in the room, because, there's Rocco Prestia. She wants to play bass. And she said, not only do I want to play bass, I want to play what is hip. And she pulled it off. And that's an unknown her story that I think really should be to speak to the quality of what she's putting out, that at age 15, she could get on stage with Tower of Power and grab a bass and play what is hip.
Amazing.
And I think that's really what you're talking about, is that the sophisticated ears perk up and go, oh, we're about to hear something real.
Yeah.
So along those lines, you and Matt are planning to deliver something real. Is there an angle there so that the sophisticated ears can call attention to what Matt's doing? Is there something that is there a trick up your sleeve? What are you hiding?
I think there's not really a trick. I think it's bringing in the people that we have brought in to play on the album. That's the quote unquote trick,
Okay.
So we as Matt mentioned, we have Patty Lacey, we have Desi, who is the lead vocalist for a group called Parlor Social out in your neck of the woods, out in California. And her husband, Ricky, who is Madonna's keyboardist. They have an amazing group. So we bring Walter Chancellor Jr., who was one of Prince's saxophonists that's on the project. We're bringing in that flavor, so to speak, by the people that do it the best. And Mark Walker, who is an amazing keyboardist here in the UK, who's played with Anita Baker and all kinds of folks. Malcolm Joseph, who is Grace Jones's. He's on the project. So we're bringing the flavor to the album, and coupled with Matt's voice, that's what makes it. Orphe, Robinson, just like I said, all the people that are involved are really. I think that's the quote unquote trick, if you will.
Okay, yeah, that's a great trick. It stands the test of time, that's for sure. I was going to ask because I saw a comment from Malcolm Joseph, so we know his ears are here, but I was going to ask if he's on the record. One thing that Pete and I haven't talked a lot about yet is that I'm launching a new show on our production company, and that show is going to be called Focus on the Funk. So, and that's what it is. It's going to be a music only show. And just like the two of you recognized an attraction for each other, it's not necessarily going to feature only funk artists, but it is going to only feature artists who are funky.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to, of course, extend the standing invitation to both of you and to Malcolm Joseph, because I know where his heart lives. So besides that, when you look in the long play at Matt's career, because I sense, of course, a lot of optimism for the talents that he brings and how everybody's going to receive it. What do you see as a long play for Matt's career? Where do you think he's headed? Because he's clearly still a young man.
Yeah, I more of the same. More of the same. There's the saying: if it's not broke, don't fix it. And so it's more collaborations. It's more R&B. It's more reggae. The producer that he's working with, James, he's incredible. And it's more of the same. And that's what I see for Matt's career. And he doesn't know this yet, because he always kids me about dropping bombs on him. That's kind of a standing joke between the two of us, because he'll mention someone that he would love to work with or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll call him and see if he or her, and see if she wants to be involved. So I'm always dropping bombs, as he says. But the next project after this, after we release this one, we'll have a few more bombs attached to it that I haven't shared with Matt. But it's just more of the same, to answer your question. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And it's not broke yet. It's not broke. Far from it.
Matt, let me ask you about more of the same, because you have an enabler in your corner.
Yeah.
Who's fostering these relationships. Yeah. And clearly he's calling upon you to be responsible for those relationships. But who have you obviously should have worked with by now, who you haven't yet?
Well, I can't answer that.
That's not a fair question.
I kind of, there's so many people I could say, but it's just people go, oh, really? Yeah, okay. I think more to the point is to add to what Aaron has just said. And I think the whole journey with music is about storytelling. And that's what I've got, a lot more stories in me. And that's what I'm trying to feature within the album and who I work with. And going back to the people that Aaron mentioned, it's those people that once they hear the track that myself and James have written and produced together, we play it to them and they hear exactly immediately where we're going with it. And I think that's the joy. They just hear it and fall into place. It's like there's slots already made for those people. and they just jump in, and it just works automatically. And that's been the joy with this album so far. It was when I first heard the backing track that James had wrote. As soon as I heard it, I thought civil acts, protests, people standing up for their rights, And then he played a brass line, and then we enhanced that, and then I could hear like big kind of 70s, early 80s kind of gospel-y R&B BB, and then Aaron asked Patty to do, and it all just kind of fell into place. And what you hear is exactly what I had in my mind when we first started writing the song. And the journey that's taken with all the rest of the tracks so far has been exactly the same. There's tracks on there that touch on domestic abuse. There's tracks that touch on mental health. They touch on LGBTQ. They touch on the civil rights. It's all stories that are close to my heart that I want to talk about. And I think as a songwriter, you should touch on those things, because I believe if I was to stand on a pedestal or a soapbox and preach, that's not my job. I'm not a politician, but within the realms of songwriting, that's my arena, and that's where I can put my word out and my opinions and do it within word and lyric. So Aaron has kind of given me the opportunity to do that with the awesome people that I've followed for years, that I'm in awe of. They're, in a sense, I know they're Aaron's mentors, but they're kind of my mentors as well, because I've been listening to them for the last 20 years,
Yeah. This album, was there, because of your sensitivity to whatever's going on in your life at any given point in time, whatever you produce in a time period is going to have some level of continuity.
Yeah.
But is this album conceptually continuous in a way that's more than that? In other words, is there something that's through line in your mind on all of these songs?
Yeah, completely. You guys know Happy that I wrote on the first album. Mm-hmm. The new song, Strong, it's like Happy's big brother. It's like the grown-up version of Happy. And the whole album is the same. It's we touch on different subject matters. But it's like with anything, it's like life. That the more you do something, the more you mature. It's like wine. It just your songwriting gets better, your ideas through production gets better, the people you work with add different ideas, and then with with Aaron facilitating all these wonderful people to work with, they throw stuff in the mix, and it just becomes this big part of awesomeness, that you have to get rid of stuff that back in the day you would have cherished, but there's just too much of it. And it's all awesome, but you have to decipher what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of, because you have this kind of, in a way, a scripture, a story that you want to keep to. But it's just a wonder to be in that position, to have that to hand.
Okay.
Where you're getting rid of great stuff because you can, it's just it's amazing.
Because you will make more and it will be greater.
Absolutely. It's phenomenal.
And I think just to piggyback on that as well, one of the things, obviously that we'd like to do is to get more, Matt, more exposure in the U.S., obviously here in the U.K., but also in the U.S. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted the U.S. connections a part of this project, because those individuals will be promoting the project in the States, and that's more of a direction that we're going as well, is making Matt's name more known in the States, separate from the UB40 thing. He just coming into his own and having his name be more familiar with folks in the States.
Yeah,
I'm curious, Aaron. Yeah, when you're looking at Matt as a product, so obviously Matt has tremendous passion for what he's doing, which I would put up against any, algorithmic friendly beat or song or whatever it is, right? We know we can hear the same song over and over again, but Matt is putting something that's special in there, like a real talent, obviously, but there's something in his message. He wants to go after gospel. As a manager, how do you sell that? How do you sell something that's, hey, here's this British guy who's just got this passion for gospel? Because at some point, it's got to be marketable. I'm not saying that it's not, but you're the guy that has to do it.
Yeah. And I go back to my previous answer. I look to my mentors and their mentors and their mentors. And if they are behind this project and they checked off the, okay, this guy's, he's got it and he's legit, that makes my job easier as a manager by contacting and making those connections in the States, because I have, the people that have already approved it, so to speak, and backed it. We have that in our corner and in our favor. So that makes my job easier. And again, there's going to be people, what is this white guy? Who is this white guy? This British white guy think he is coming over and singing R&B and reggae and gospel, and so be it, and so be that. It would not make a bit of difference if no matter what color he is. So having the backing of the people that we do just makes my job easier, to be quite honest with you, because all of those people know people, in the industry. When you get to a certain level in the industry, as both of you know, the circle becomes a lot smaller, and we all kind of know each other, or know, we're 1 or 2 degrees separation from someone when you get to a certain level in the industry. And so all of those people that were mentioned before, they're going to sign off and say, yeah, Matt's not only is he talented and his music great, he's a great person. And a lot of that boils down to, people think that it's all about the music, and really it's about relationships. That's what it's about. It's about music, but it's also about relationships and how you treat people, and surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, as Matt said at the beginning of the interview. That's really what it's about. And yes, it's about the music, but a huge part of it is about the relationships as well, and the networking and the connections. And the network that I have been blessed to have in place says that guy sitting on the computer there is, one of us. So that makes my job much easier.
There's still a job, though, and the job is to take that credibility and translate it for listeners. And when I asked the question earlier, the question I really was after was, do you think that Matt, because he has the inherent credibility, also can widen the audience and bring new listeners to discover R&B in a way that they hadn't before?
I think so. And to be a role model for others that want to walk down that that path. For instance, Eminem, who one of my best friends in the music industry is a guy named Eric Griggs, who is on the Focus 3 Dots, Dr. Dre's production team, and worked on Eminem's last album, produce several of the songs on that album. He did the soundtrack for Dreamgirls and, a number of different projects he's worked on, Stevie Wonder's new album. But my point is with Eminem, being a white rapper and, having to quote unquote prove himself, that was a challenge for sure. When he came out, and but because he had Dre's backing, he had Eric's backing, he had a number of people backing him in the hip hop community, he was able to be, successful. And I and the same thing, with Matt. I just, yes, there's going to be work. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be, a walk in the park to, for people to hear him and to develop new audiences. But I think the uniqueness of, because he is who he is, and being a white British man doing R&B and reggae and gospel, there's something very, unique about that. And Matt is a person that he definitely, recognizes his privilege. He gets it. He's not asleep on that. And we've had many conversations and posts, and he's definitely an advocate for. He and his sister are both advocates for people of color and LGBT and women and climate and all of that. And he definitely recognizes his privilege. Definitely recognizes the shoulders that he's standing on in regards to this particular genre of music. And when you respect the people and the music and where it comes from, like Matt does, that also speaks volumes, and it makes him more welcoming and welcomed in that particular community and in that genre. With some privileged white dude singing this genre and not giving a rat's ass about where it came from, or claiming it as his own, or all of that stuff, then it would, well, first of all, I wouldn't be working with him if that's how he was.
Yeah. Right.
But he's not. He's very conscious of his place in this genre. Very conscious of.
I'll take it a step further. First, I want to address this person, Marianne Catrona, because I don't know her, but I like her. She said some very poignant things here. That comment about bringing her kids into what she considers real music, that's terrific. The other thing, though, is that the way that I hear it from Matt is that he has a responsibility, and that responsibility is not a weight to carry forth, but more like a superpower. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Yeah, okay. It's not a he is putting this music out there because that's his passion. That's, as he stated earlier, that's what he grew up listening to. He respects the music. He gets the music. He understands the history of it. He knows his place. He knows his place in it, and that is his superpower. Because believe me, I've worked with a number of artists that don't get that see R&B, particularly white artists that see R&B, gospel, jazz as theirs. They claim that, and it's not theirs to claim when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. That is Matt's superpower, if you will, because he understands that, and he gets that, and he respects that, and he knows his place within that.
I would say that just to build on that point, what I, when I hear Matt and the passion in his voice when he talks about it, what I hear is not somebody who says, give me the ball because I like the glory of having the ball. He says, give me the ball because I can score for this team. And I think that that's the difference. And that's, like you pointed out, when you hear the way that he operates, the way that he works, Matt, that's a lot of complimentary stuff that comes from your manager there. Is he earning his paycheck or or is any of that true? What does the responsibility mean to you?
I think I mean, Aaron has just said some very, very humbling things. To be fair, I think what I have to go back to the point of the white thing and the R&B and the whole. It's like a big sphere that covers that genre and black music in general. For the last 11 years, I've stood behind a white man in the reggae world. And what I've learned from Ali Campbell, being a lead vocalist in a reggae band that for the last 40 years has kind of been on top of their game, is the humility you have to have for that genre. And it's about understanding where that music comes from. It's about understanding what you're saying about the music and what you're presenting. And I've learned so much from Ali Campbell in that sense through the reggae side of music. I mean, I've been backstage at certain festivals or shows where full-on dreads have come back to kind of put Ali on the spot, and he's destroyed them, you know, because he's not just a white man singing reggae music. Reggae music is Ali Campbell. That's the reason he does the music. And in a sense, it's the same with me with the R&B. And going back to another point, it's not just the R&B. It's having been with UB40 for the last 11 years. I adore reggae music. So to have my two favorite music, to put them together, the passion, you know, to combine the two, is phenomenal. And talking about the R&B side of things, the same as Ali and reggae, I have studied R&B from year dot. It's my music, you know. It's what I grew up on. It's the vocalists, the albums, the producers, the writers. You know, you have to appreciate that and you have to acknowledge that. So for me, to not want to do it, I would be insane. Even it doesn't matter what color I am. You know, this is my music. This is what I want to do. And just because I'm white, it's about knowing what's behind that history, carrying that through, putting that into word, working with the people I do and representing and telling the story. You know, that's what it's all about. It's not just about a white boy singing R&B and, oh, he's got a good voice. And, you know, it's about knowing where that comes from and putting that in your music.
That's beautiful. As you take this album into the world, who do you hope gets it? I mean, we hope everybody gets it, but is there a particular audience that for each of these songs that you're really hoping you reach? I
think, I mean, like you say, obviously everybody would be the ultimate goal, but it's like life's ongoing struggle. Everything, you know, I shouldn't have to be writing songs about being strong or being happy. You know, we should be in a position where we all naturally are in that state of mind. And it's a sad state of affairs, really. But I hope it reaches everybody. It's personal. Do you know what I mean? It really is. And I don't know. It's just such a hard question to answer. That it's. Yeah,
I think just looking at the video for. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there. Matt,
No.
Just looking at because we're currently we filmed the video for the single "Strong," and as Matt alluded to at the beginning of the interview, you know, we are showing images and scenes and people. From all walks of life, you know, from the BLM movement, from the LGBTQ movement, from the climate folks, the women,
mental health,
color, mental health, you know. Yep. So those are the people and the message that we want to get out there. And those are the communities and the populations, you know, that we definitely want to reach, which is reflected in, you know, the first single that's coming out and the visuals to that. And it's like you can't identify with something if you don't see yourself in it. And if you are working somewhere, or you want to achieve something, and if you don't see yourself present in it, it makes it more challenging and difficult to quote unquote get it. And so with the visuals of Strong, it was very deliberate and very conscious about what images were shown and what who we were trying to target with the message of the song.
I agree. I think it's education. I think educating people is just like a never-ending situation. And I think through the music, it's not so much as I want to stand on a soapbox and tell people my opinions or my thoughts or the way I live my life. It's about bringing people together. I have so much time for just anyone. I like talking to people. I like to know what's going on in their lives. If they're sad, if they're happy, if they've got problems. It's all about communication, and communication leads to education. And that is what I try to do, and make people aware of certain things, because so many people breeze through life without even kind of understanding the common knowledge of certain subjects, and they don't care. So when you kind of infringe on a subject with them and you can't get inside, it's really annoying. So if you can have a subject matter within a song that is easy to listen to, but the point is there, people can hear what you're trying to say, and it covers a multitude of different backgrounds. I think that's more the point as well. What I'm trying to do is not tell people how they should think, but kind of educate them in a way where we're all the same. We've all got to get on. We're all human beings on this planet of ours. Just let's just stop fighting and rowing and arguing and forget money, forget it. Let's just get along, for God's sake. It's just insane.
Yeah.
I love that message. One of the things I wanted to say too is, at some point when it comes to art, we've got to get out of the way of trying to decide what it's okay to do and what we're allowed to do. I mean, it's up to Matt. Like, Matt determines, no one tells Jay Adams he can't nail some skateboard wheels, to his feet and go out and skate and redefine that industry, or any of the great Arab poets. I mean, they go out, they create. Mark Twain, we're left to talk about Mark Twain's work 130 years later because he was brilliant. You don't tell him what the words are he's allowed to use. He uses the words to create conversations for the next 100-something years. And we've got to get past the point where, we're so worried about, is it proper, and is it, it's art. It's Matt's job. Matt's the artist. He's got to push us to a spot where we're forced to deal with the reality that he's illustrating. And I think it doesn't have to be commercially successful, not that you won't be, but it doesn't have to be commercially successful to be incredible art. I mean, there's all kinds of instances of this where it's there for art.
You're so right. You're so right, because sometimes as well, certain subject matters are uncomfortable for people to listen to, but sometimes you have to take that responsibility and push a person into the era of being uncomfortable for them to listen to it. And I'm not on a journey to make people uncomfortable. I'm on a journey to make people aware, that this is surrounding them. There are things surrounding them. And it's, you don't get that kind of music anymore. I mean, the 80s was kind of the last stand on people having opinions of what was going on in the world and what was going on around them. Nowadays it's just, as long as we can have peace, love and happiness, that's all they want to write about nowadays. There's no, well, we can have that once that's sorted, and once that's sorted, because we can't do that because that's happening at the moment, and these need to be addressed.
Yeah. Wow. Well, gentlemen, we've had you for an hour, so I want to button up for our listeners. Go follow Matt on Facebook, follow him on Twitter. You can get him at Matt Hoy Official. And the new single is called Strong. We'll see some very, very soon because it's in production now. Aaron, thank you for joining us as well. And thank you for ushering and accelerating Matt's career and his message for all of us. It's an important one. And we thank you for blessing us with, with this great piece of art. Like Pete said, it doesn't have to be commercially successful, but the more it is, the more ear holes we know that this beautiful message is getting into. So we hope everybody listens to it.
Yeah, I do too.
Thank you so much for taking the time to comment.
Thank you for having us.